All right, one last thing here is going to be attendance and grading. So these are obviously going to come later. You don't need this for setup, but just for reference. Number one, attendance. We can go ahead and click on attendance, and you should be taking attendance. It is figured into the grade. So for in-person classes, there will be an attendance component both from critique and from lab. For online classes, because it just doesn't make sense to do a lab one, you will only have it from your critiques. So once you come here, you can select dates up here. I tend to notoriously be entering attendance after the date, so make sure you're actually entering it on the date, or you will get an email from the student about the issue. And then you just click on it. The first time it goes green, second time red, yellow would be tardy. I don't really use that. You can also unmark all if you accidentally mark too many, but it'll go ahead and just show who's present. Again, I would encourage them to add pictures. It's super helpful to at least attempt to learn who they are. The other thing, we want to go to grades. And so because this course has a lot of things that not everybody's using, you see this unpublished. Well, that makes your list really long. So I would go ahead here and go up to view, and you can uncheck this by clicking on it, unpublished assignments. So now you should only see the things you specifically have turned on, as well as, unfortunately, it will show you every single module, whether that module is on or not. I don't know why it shows that, but it doesn't show anything else. But it just makes life a little easier when you only have the one portion. Just ignore that I've flipped, and it should stay unpublished for a while. I've never had it republish. If you had multiple sections, there'd be other options too. But from here, then you can enter grades. So things, for example, the project draft, and you can always expand this. If you're someone like me who likes to be able to see the words so I know what I'm clicking on, you can expand it. It's up to you. Usually the points help tell you too. But for project draft, that's not something they turn in. You have to enter grades after critique, or I suppose you could do it during critique. I always click on the first one. It does have a rubric you're supposed to use. When you click on that and click on the little arrow, you get speed grader. And you can go ahead and view the rubric and address it accordingly. So if you've asked them to go in a certain order and a student misses critique, it makes it easier, I suppose, to mark it. Do make sure, if you can, put in zeros for critique as soon as possible. Obviously, zeros do better. And you can come up here and get all the other students you need to enter. Clicking here will allow you to exit. For quizzes, the quiz grades will be in the textbook, and you can just enter those directly in here. We're still working with the publisher. We got delayed with the craziness this year in getting that finished and getting it plugged in, but they should be accurate. Projects work the same way. Now, when a project's submitted, you'll get something like this. This came from me messing with his attendance. You'll see that under any project you need to grade. You'll do the same thing. You can click where the grade would go, click the arrow, go to the speed grader. And again, you have a rubric to follow that the students see. And I promise you, if you don't use it, I will be hearing about it, which means Sherry and John will be hearing about it. But go down the list and mark everything. You have a couple options. You can go with like the straight, like down here is the yes, no, did you do it? You do still have the ability, if for some reason, like for example, submitted all files. If a student submits one of the files but not everything, I might come over here and enter like 3 points, and then you can click the comment item to leave a comment for the student. So while I wouldn't do it on every item here, if you're not giving them a clear yes or no credit, that's an option. Then there's also the additional ability to leave comments down here. As I said, you can click on this if you would like to leave a media comment. It will open your video camera. I have the little slider, so I just slide mine so you can't see me and just leave an audio comment, is what I did this summer. It's up to you. You can also leave a verbal, like type out a comment. I do recommend, if you're going to type out stuff, that you just start a Word doc or a note doc and just the most common things you notice you're saying, because you know, if you're grading one class at a time, you'll notice you've said the same thing 10 times. Just put it in there and keep it. I have one that I keep running. I could provide it to you, but again, you probably want to use the language that you would use. I'm just going to hit cancel. But normally when you save it, it will update the grade. The student can view all of those items. The project normally shows up over here, or at least the link to the project. Some assignments you really need to download, others you can just view through here. One last thing I'd like to point out to you, so if they're late with the project or quiz, the whole module is marked late. The nice thing that they added with Canvas is I can come in here and mark late, and then it's going to change colors. So usually if I enter my quizzes first, I go back and then I mark all of these late so that as I'm grading it later on, it's a visual reminder to me that I need to take off the points, because the late points come off the project, not the not like the quiz. So even if they miss the quiz, the whole module is considered late, and we just take the points off the project to make math a little bit easier. You also, like, if they just didn't submit, you could mark missing, give them the 0, and then type comments is what I do for projects. Like, that's my first check, usually the day after the deadline. Just quickly check, mark, it reminds them, because I promise you the 0 is far more effective than anything in getting their attention. And then at the end here, as you start to actually get grades, these will show you the sort of cumulative grade for the modules. So when we talk about the 70%, we're referring to this grade down here, which will show us what they actually got on the overall grade. So it's not the pieces, it's the overall grade down here that needs to be 70%. So you can look through those, and then you'll have a final grade here. So unfortunately, this section gets a little tedious, but at least as long as you're not teaching 133, the other part is probably pretty manageable. So that is some of the basics on how to grade with Canvas, or at least specific to this course. Please make sure to use the rubrics and make sure you're entering grades regularly, and that if they didn't submit something, give them the 0, because it's the most, A, it keeps their grade accurate, B, it's the most effective way to get their attention.